with those cards. It's Tuesday, February 16th, 2021, and another edition of I Didn't Know That, including I didn't know that the Go Live button had not been pressed. So sorry we're a few minutes behind, folks. That is certainly my fault. Tonight it is a star-studded roster of guests, including our human laugh track, Mark Seibert. And where's the card?
Well, I know you. There it is. There's our human laugh track.
And from
we rehearsed this before, Bob. Which is why it's going so smoothly right now.
I know, that's right.
I'm heard from laughing.
Yeah. So,
go ahead. So Mark Seibert.
Yes. Mark Seibert. Mark Seibert.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. 1 second. There we go.
God, I really thought that you'd get it this time. I was like, well, good. We get a redo. And joining us once again from Ohio University, Jarrod Tudor. There's another. Okay, I thought there was like Ohio University something else, and then of course the professor Jared Gray is with us to help us choose wisely in wine, and then special guest tonight, Johnny Fedevich.
Wow. Oh, what happened to your? Don't you have a clap track, an audience?
I do have an audience. I do. Here.
No, you're supposed to clap, Bob. Clap. And of course, as always, Bob is occupying the middle screen.
I don't know how that happens.
I don't either.
I feel like we should do this again. I think we should stop the broadcast.
Why don't we stop the broadcast and do it all over again?
Do it all over again.
I just thought that was great. Well, you were rolling right along. You were yelling at me. I don't have the cards right, and I look up, and we're not even live.
Why is it saying we're not live? That was because we weren't live. Well, welcome everyone into another edition of I Didn't Know That. Happy to have everybody here. Lori Evans is here. Julie Smith is here.
Julie Smith. I want to make a mention, Bob, about Julie Smith before you roll right over top of me. Julie got her I Didn't Know That show mug this week. So she sent me a very nice picture. She has not said whether we can show her picture on the on air or not yet. So I did not do that. I didn't get Mark to convert that to a 16:9. And Yelena Bonanno is in the house with us. And by the way, her husband, Mike Bonanno, will be on next week to talk about dead Ohioans.
I'm excited.
Yes, we'd love to have Mike on. And Julie
I thought you were
said
going to say we love dead Ohioans, which someday we're all going to be one.
Yeah, we hope Mike will cover us when we reach our demise.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Or at least he's passed the torch on to somebody else who will cover us. When we're
absolutely.
Dead, with our modicum of fame that we have from
viewers like you. Yeah,
Hopefully they format it correctly too, so there's no space around.
Yeah, it really helps, doesn't it?
And maybe the link will get to come out, early enough in time, so I don't get yelled at, for not having them up in time. So, because Bob likes to send the link out late. So tonight we got a great show. And, so there we go, Mark. So Bob is teaching us a lesson right now, just in case you're wondering. And you know what the lesson is? The lesson is the show must go on. Oh, you're back. Okay, so why don't we when we take Mark off, okay, unless we want some giggles. Okay. Yeah. And why don't we bring the star of the show, Johnny Fedevich, on with us. Johnny, how are you this evening?
I'm well. I'm good.
We are great. And by the way, this is the Johnny Fedevich birthday show. Happy birthday to you, Johnny.
Oh, happy birthday.
We don't have to talk about that.
What this means...
You got it in the nick of you're an Aquarian on the cusp of Pisces? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
We have shows like...
At the end of Aquarius, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
This goes to show you that Johnny has absolutely no friends if he's hanging out with us.
They're still back in Ohio, man. That's what it is.
That's right. So, all right. And you're a couple hours behind, so for you musician actors, things don't start hopping till 11 p.m., which would be 1 a.m. here. So you've got plenty of time, till people start circulating. So,
well, yeah, it's your birth. If you want to tell us, how old are you this birthday?
No, it's like I don't do those late night things anymore. That's how old I am. So.
So you're reaching Bob's age. That's good. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, because
gotcha.
I don't do those anymore.
You got to see him in person, Johnny.
Oh.
Yeah, I have all the filters on and everything. No, I actually.
He's got all kinds of. And I haven't seen Bob in person. What's it been? 10 years I've seen you in person.
No, Mike, we just saw each other.
When? No, we didn't. Okay, let's get on to Johnny.
Oh no,
Johnny,
you're right. It wasn't. This has all been virtual.
All done virtually. So Johnny is a Canton, Ohio native.
Yes.
Local boy done good, Bob, is what this is all about. Okay? So Johnny, take us to Canton, Ohio, circa 1990s maybe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so circa 1990s, what were you doing in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s?
So in the 90s, just had been in a band called the Zooters, and we were just back and forth to LA and Cleveland and Canton, trying to get a record deal like everyone else. Mm-hmm. And, concentrating on original music, writing, composing, and all that. And that band was called the Zooters, and we ended up getting a Southeast Asia recording contract. And so we moved everything out here to Las Vegas, started recording and whatnot, and made that record, and then ended up moving permanently in '97 to Las Vegas. And then soon after that is when I auditioned for the film. So, so the '90s were I was just rocking and rolling in northeastern Ohio, playing clubs, doing whatever, and then eventually started ping ponging back over to LA to try to secure recording contracts and stuff and meet people that way.
And what instrument do you play? Before we forget.
Drums. Right here.
All right.
There's a lot of drums around.
Yeah, got way too many.
All my drums are up beyond that wall over there. Not that I'm a very good drummer. I can do enough I learned how to play drums well enough so that way I could record my own songs and I could put the beats that were in my head on tape.
Don't take my job, man.
I'm not going to take your job. No, I'm not. No way. What kind of music was the Zooters?
It's kind of like power pop, hard rock. Kind of like, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but King's X and kind of proggy, but very Beatle-y, very Beatle Cheap Tricks oriented.
I like I love King's X.
Yeah.
Ty Tabor, was that his name? The guitar player was phenomenal.
Yeah,
fantastic player. But the reason I asked was because I know that like Southeast Asia, that part of the world, they kind of have their own likes and their own tastes of things, and some things that don't work over here really work over there. How did those audiences receive that record?
Okay, I guess it ended up being something that was just like a sidecar to an American deal that we wanted to secure. So that was just like something like, okay, well, if we do this, maybe America will take interest or Europe will take interest, then we can do something, to hit more people. And but that never happened, so it's all good. I mean, we tried and we worked on it for years. And after I left the band, I think they ended up getting an American deal that kind of fell through within a couple months. So still recording, and it's just
it's a lottery ticket.
It's hardly a business. It's just,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's it is like it's from what I understand. I had a buddy that had a development deal with Virgin Records at one point, and They put a band together. They got a big name producer to produce the record, and it went nowhere. It's just, and there are more stories like that. It's like,
I've had so many development deals and stuff like that. I could go on about that, but
it's just, it's hard. It's people. I don't think people understand how hard it is. I mean, you can,
It's
so
dumb.
you were
Anyone that wants to become a musician for full time is dumb.
Right. I think you can do it. I mean,
I'm just way into it too far. I can't. There's no turning back. I can't find another career.
So you got to work, and you got to work a lot. You got to play a lot. You got to teach. You've got to do in order to make it work. But if it's what makes you, and this is the same thing I tell my kids. It's like, hey, if it makes you happy, it doesn't matter. But it's not easy. It's not easy.
No,
you're
right about making. Sorry, you're right about making yourself happy, because today I was in my drum room doing some recording, practicing some Steely Dan, practicing some Bob Skaggs. I still practice. I still come in here daily to keep my hands up, up and ready to go.
You have to.
So I love it too. So don't get me wrong. I do love it. I love it.
So if I may jump in here, gentlemen.
Yeah, sorry.
Somebody did notice the shift. By the way, Don, Bob noticed the shift. And I took myself off camera because I had to cough. Gone. Thank you, Bob. I took myself... Can we stay focused for 5 seconds? So I took myself off camera because I had to cough. When I came back on, I was accidentally in the middle, and Bob gave me a look that he just assumed. So Johnny doesn't realize there's a secret battle going on between me and Bob constantly. So Johnny, you guys Zuder kind of like fizzled out. You leave the band, right?
Yes.
And that was the time when you had a friend of yours from the Canton area help you get onto a movie that's basically a cult classic, right?
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that movie is Almost Famous, and here we've got some shots.
That's awesome.
2 shots of Almost Famous, and Johnny is on the left picture. He's on the far right, and he's the last one on the right picture. Do I have that right, Johnny?
Yeah, they always put the drummer in the back, man. Why?
Right. I don't know.
Well, because it's kind of like on stage. You guys are holding everything down in the back. I mean, you got to have someone behind the curtain. So how did you get on the movie? I mean, what was the story behind you getting on that movie?
Yeah. So probably, 1999, the Zooters were out performing in Los Angeles, and another buddy of mine said, hey, man, you should get a hold of Mark Kozlik. He's in L.A., man. He'll come out. You guys haven't seen each other in so long. He'll come out and check your band out, and you guys can hang out. And I'm like, okay, I'll call Mark. So I called Mark, and he ended up at my show at the Coconut Teaser, and hung out, went out to breakfast and stuff after the gig, and that was that. And then I came back to Vegas, and like a week later, Mark's like, hey, man, I gave your name to the casting director for this film that I auditioned for, and they asked me if I knew any drummers. So I gave him your name. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't act. I'm not an actor or anything. So sure enough, the casting director from Cameron Crowe's film, Almost Famous, called me and asked me if I'd like to audition for the film. So I was like, sure, why not? It sounds like something cool, very cool. I've never done that. I've never acted. And flew out there, met Cameron, met the casting director. Cameron had sent me some script, so that I would come in, prepared to speak lines and whatnot. And about 3 weeks later, Cameron Crowe called me, left a message on my answering machine, and I was like, "Oh yeah." He asked me if I wanted to do a film with him. I said, "Of course." That was now. So it's just a chance meeting a guy, Mark, who I hadn't seen in years, and he gave my name to somebody, and then that person actually called me, and I picked up the phone and said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And it's just being at the right place at the right time, and having your facilities ready to go too, man.
Now, did you play the Stillwater tunes? Did that band do those songs, or was that was a different?
Yep. The drummer on that, his name's Ben Smith. He was Hart's drummer, because Hart Anna and Nancy Wilson had a lot to do with Almost Famous's music, especially Nancy. And so she recorded all that way before the film. So
No kidding.
yeah, man.
Nancy's an underrated guitar player. I don't think Nancy gets nearly the run that she should as a player and as a songwriter. She's amazing.
She's great. She's totally great.
So what was your days like? Is this like you were like in almost every scene? It seemed like. I mean, because Stillwater was a big part of the movie, and I mean, how long? I mean, were you working 18-hour days? I mean, it just seemed like you were almost in everything and said nothing.
That's right. Yeah. So at the beginning of the film, we did 6 weeks prior to filming in L.A. in a rehearsal studio just to figure out how the four of us were going to interact as a band. So Jason Lee and Billy Crudup and Mark Cossack, we all just hung out, had lunch, played to the backing track of the music that we were performing in the film, hung out. We did that for like 6 weeks, and before we shot any film. So when we got to shooting, we were like buds. We were hanging out. We already knew each other's idiosyncrasies and whatnot. And so that's how that started. And then we started filming. And I was a principal on the film. So I was in most of the scenes and it was treated as a principal, not like a stand-in or anything like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, they were long days too. They were super long days, and but it's good work, film work. When back then when you can get film work, that's good work to get.
Well, and you still, a buddy of mine was in a film called Fast Forward. It was almost like a Fame type B movie sort of thing, and it shows up on Cinemax every now and then. And I remember when we worked together in a music store that he would show me his SAG checks. It would be like 49 cents or something. But he still gets checks every time that movie gets played somewhere.
Yeah, I got one today for Shopgirl, and it was $1.79.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I can't live on that, but
no, huh? You were in Vanilla Sky too?
Yeah, for a little bit, for a second or two. Yeah, because Cameron did Vanilla Sky too, so he called me up to ask me if I could come in, and Mark was in it as well, and we were in a bathroom scene making fun of Tom Cruise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a good experience.
So, Johnny, you've played with some pretty impressive artists, and the first one I want to talk to you about is the one Bob's going to love. Tell us about the guitar player you did an album with.
Yeah, I did an album with Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big. It's called Wing Dog. Yeah.
So I've got a great Paul Gilbert story. Mike, have I ever told you my Paul Gilbert story? You tell me yours, and then I'll tell you my Paul Gilbert story.
No, it's just that Paul, at the time, he was living in Las Vegas, and he helped the Zooters out with demos and whatnot when we were doing demos for that Japanese record, Southeast Asia record, and he just ended up using myself and the bass player from the Zooters to do his Flying Dog record, and it was totally fun, man. And Bruce Bouillet was also on that record and stuff, and the Racer X dudes,
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then then Paul did another record called Raw Blues Power with his uncle, and I was on that too. That was way fun too. So yeah, Paul, that was one of my first records. Actually, that was not my first record, but that was that started I started recording and stuff. And
after that, yeah. And he's such a versatile player. I love watching his lesson videos. I like watching his breakdowns. I do all that stuff. My buddy and I one time we were just sitting around and have dumb chats about stupid stuff, and I was like, hey man, if you could just go to lunch with any living guitar player, who would it be? And then we kind of talked back and forth and threw out some names, and we kind of both settled on Paul because he just seems like such a really cool, down to earth guy that just happens to be just really one of the great guitar players of our generation. And so in my other job, I'm a producer for a nationally syndicated radio show. We frequently get pitches, and how it works, like, and you saw this a lot at the Super Bowl, where people will do interviews with a football player that's in the game, and he'll be sponsored by somebody. Like, that's part of the deal, that if you book this guy, but they have to talk about this product at least for a little bit. So actually, this is a product that Paul uses. It was like National Hearing Loss Month or something like that, and he uses hearing aids now because his hearing is pretty. He's got tinnitus pretty bad. So I was super excited because I usually do the interviews and then edit the host in later. So I was super excited to talk to Paul. So but I couldn't get him off talking about hearing aids. It kind of had to be the thing to talk about, and I wanted to talk about all kinds of other stuff, and he brought it all back to the hearing aids the whole time. I was like, oh man.
Do you know how he got his hearing loss like that? Do you know the story supposedly?
I'm trying to remember because I think he talked about that, but I wanted to talk about his 3-note scales per string. I wanted to talk about that. But so I was a little distracted. How did that happen?
I guess Eddie Van Halen invited him to listen to the newest Van Halen record at Eddie Van Halen's home studio, and Eddie Van Halen had the sound up so loud that it was killing Paul. Paul was so in shock that he was actually hanging out with Eddie Van Halen. He didn't want to say anything.
Right.
So he just endured the damage, I guess. But anyway.
Oh, wow. How did Eddie survive that? Well, just different. Everybody has different tolerances for that stuff.
Yeah.
So looking over your history, what I know, Johnny, is you played drums for Kelly Kagi of Night Ranger.
Yeah.
On a live performance.
Another great guitar player.
Drummer. Yeah. Sister Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came in, and how long did it take you to learn his stuff?
It took a little bit because I'm a meticulous guy when it comes to learning material. I chart everything out, and because I want to play it like they played it, add my flair here and there, but I want to make the singer comfortable as possible. So yeah,
cool.
That was something called Rock Pack that I did with Asia, the band I play with now too, and. We backed up a bunch of lead singers and stuff. Kelly Kagi was awesome. He's such a nice guy, and Lou Grama and Greg Raleigh, Bobby Kimball, Fee Wable, all those guys I played with. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Bobby Kimball, great singer for Toto.
Yeah.
Who else did you mention there? You blasted through them like they were nothing, and to us, it's something.
That's only because I have them up on my screen because people ask me and I forget, so I have them up on my screen. Tony Lewis from the Outfield, Steve Augeri from Journey, Mickey Thomas from Starship, awesome singer.
Oh, what that guy,
Mickey Thomas sings one of my all-time favorite songs, which is "Fooled
incredible.
Around and Fell in Love." Yeah,
and
love Mickey Thomas.
He doesn't even strain or anything. He just sings it in the original key. Anyway, Lou Graham, Greg Raleigh, Bobby Kimball, Fee Webb, Robin Zander. I played a gig with him in
no kidding. That's awesome.
Fort Myers.
Oh yeah, Mickey Thomas is just an incredible. I can listen to Jane over and over and over and over and over again.
Those records were so great back then, man. So great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they had, and that was Ansley Dunbar was on that record.
Yes.
Ansley's one of my favorites. What was I listening to? I was showing my son is starting to take drum lessons, so I'm always playing drummers for him.
Are you crazy?
What's that?
What are you crazy?
No, hey man, if he finds something that he loves that isn't Minecraft, I'll be, But he's actually really creative in the game. I think I discounted it as a video game, and then one day I watched what he actually does with it. I'm like, man, that's crazy. But we were listening to I was listening to King Crimson, One More Red Nightmare. And I was like, Dude, you got to come in here and listen to Bill Bruford for a couple of minutes. And you know what? This is way off track, and I'm sure people will fall asleep for a minute when you and I talk about this. But you'll know what I'm saying is, you're familiar with that? You have to be familiar with that song, aren't you? A little bit.
Yeah. No, I'm a UK fan and stuff.
Oh, all right.
Stuff, so yeah.
So, for years I'd listen to that song and I'd just be so in awe of his approach, especially those drum fills in between that riff, that I think it was yesterday that I heard the groove for the first time. I was like, oh my God, that's why this song works so well. There is a groove in that song with amidst all that stuff. There's a swing to it, and I never really picked up on it before, and now I just got to fall in love with that song all over again, because I was so into like the little technical part of what made it cool that I missed the groove. I'm like, how did I miss the groove?
Okay, that's all good.
So Johnny, you teach bass. You teach drums online virtually, correct? You give lessons?
Yes, I do. I have done that, and it's getting better and better as it goes. It was kind of new for me. Nothing beats in-person lessons. Let me just get that out there. I mean, it's better, especially with drums, to be right there looking at a student, correcting what he's doing wrong or suggesting other ways to do it. But in this day and age, it's like everyone's doing that virtually, and so I have to do it.
And if anybody that wants to contact Johnny, I've had his email rolling down below there. So if you want to do drum lessons with Johnny and learn how to play like a pro, I mean you've been playing. You played with Asia, right? I mean you were on a cruise ship touring with Asia. Playing,
Who was the lineup with you when you were doing that?
So with Asia right now. Guitars, we have two guitars. Jeff Coleman is one of the guitar players, awesome guitar player, and Moni Scaria is another guitar player, and then John Payne's the vocalist. He was the last singer that was in Asia before.
Right.
And they've released a lot of records actually with John and the vocal on the vocals.
Yeah, they have.
We go out and do shows as Asia featuring John Payne, and we've had a couple different keyboard players, but I've been the pretty constant drummer. I love playing that music, Call Palmer.
Oh, yeah.
The second record were spectacular, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. That has to be a real fun gig, and that's
really fun.
When you're talking about like playing proggy pop, that's Asia.
Proggy pop, yeah, I like that. And you're also done some stuff with who's Michael Cavanaugh? Johnny.
So Michael Cavanaugh was the lead in Broadway's Moving Out, and he's also an Ohio guy, believe it or not. And so he was on the lead in Moving Out on Broadway for about 3.5 years. And I never crossed paths with Michael in Ohio. I think I kind of knew of him, but I was playing like Akron Agora, playing rock and roll, and he's playing lounger piano solo things. We crossed paths here in Vegas, and I auditioned for his band and got the gig with his band. We played all over the world, man, doing his gig. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Great. That's really cool.
Rip the Akron Agora. I missed going to see shows there, and little Akron Agora trivia for you. Our band was the last gig scheduled to play. We were there ready to load in, and they came out and told us it was sold.
Oh.
So I stood in the Akron Agora. The last day it was the Akron Agora, and then the next day was Boot, Scoot, and Saloon.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's full of motorcycles.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Johnny, I appreciate your time coming on here on your birthday.
Yeah.
It's great to hear the stories.
Yeah, if you guys want to talk again, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Plenty of rock and roll stories.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
I'm ready
we'd love
for
it.
them.
Yeah, we'd love it. It would be awesome. So have a great birthday. Thank you for your time.
You got it.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny. Good meeting you, man.
Take care. Man. See ya.
Bob, that was fun. I mean, I think I could just talk to Johnny all night long. I mean, he's just a fun guy. Great stories. Just, one of those good energy guys to talk
and
to.
What a resume.
Yeah, I know. It's just
really,
amazing.
Really awesome.
Yeah. Before we move on to our next guest, I have a very special guest that I'm going to bring on the show. I hope he's ready. I have the infamous Big Dave.
Big Dave is here.
Hello, gentlemen.
Yes, so Big Dave, I'm bringing Big Dave on because I had lunch with him like I do every Wednesday at the Belden Village Food Court, and he said something to me, and I said, "Well, I want you to repeat. You got to repeat this." So Big Dave has something he'd like to see change in the show.
Before Big Dave speaks, though, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dave. I do have to ask because I'm very curious now. What Mike Stoffer would eat at the Belden Village Food Court?
He doesn't eat recently there. He drinks a I don't know what the formula is, but it has something to do with his diet that he's working with Sarah on. And
yeah, I know.
I can't tell you what's in it. He probably told me at the beginning, but I don't remember what it is. But he doesn't eat. He just drinks this formula.
It's not a formula. It is. I don't know that it's Bigelow. It's Bigelow apple and cinnamon tea. 0 calorie. You got to have it by Bigelow. By Bigelow.
By Enfamil.
That's why I didn't remember it, and who's going to remember that? But I'm always eating my Asian stir fry chicken, and I do the same thing every Wednesday.
Yeah. So Dave, you have a show suggestion that we would like to hear because we like to listen to our listeners.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I did catch most of Johnny, and I just wanted to say that I was very impressed with his resume as well. I play drums, and a lot of his influences are the same influence as mine. He mentioned some bands, Steely Dan, Boz-Skaggs, Toto, all favorites of mine. Love playing their music. And then, the singers, Bobby Kimball, Mickey Thomas, you mentioned Jane, that song, one of my favorite rock tunes. But anyway, I really enjoyed your first guest tonight. He was, hopefully he can come back. So
yeah, we'd love to have him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I did have a suggestion. But first of all, I love the show.
Just get to it. I mean, stop. Just
all right.
And you just missed your opportunity. Because go ahead, go. Okay. You missed your opportunity because you could have stopped him in the middle of it. Go ahead.
All right. All right. No, my suggestion was if you have a drink with ice in it and you're taking a sip and the ice is clanking around, my suggestion is, especially if someone else is trying to talk, you might want to turn the microphone off so the ice isn't clanking around and keeping somebody from talking. That's all. A very simple suggestion.
Dave, I had no idea that the clinking ice was an issue. Well, I will abort that immediately.
Hey, Bob, I tell Mike every week what I'll wait.
I told him. He got really mad at me, Bob. I go, I'm not telling him. He's like, why won't you tell him? I go, because he's Bob. He's like talking to your dog. Your dog just goes and does its thing and wags its tail and says, I'll do it. Next thing, it's in the neighbor's yard again.
No, I will stop.
No, last week Jack was talking, and I think he actually waited for you to put the drink down, and you took an extra long sip. And
I can't believe that Jack didn't bust me on it.
It was just humorous, but I tell Mike every Wednesday what a great job you guys do. And I really enjoy the show every week.
Blah, 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 blah. Good God. All right, Big Dave, that's enough. I mean, if you're going to go all soft and everything.
That's all right. I'm
Mark, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Text Jack right now and apologize.
You're not going to apologize for anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going to apologize.
Nice to meet you too, Dave.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Big Dave.
I'm going to go make my drink with ice now.
All right, Big Dave, I'm going to remove you. We'll keep you on as long as we'll keep you on the link. You can watch us. We'll remove you from it, but I'll see you tomorrow at noon at the food court. So
Sounds
thanks,
great.
Big Dave.
Right.
Excellent.
All right. See you guys.
Yep. All right, so that was Big Dave. All right, we got to get to our next guest, which is the professor. Mr. Jarrod Gray. He's got some very good wine drinking information for us. And by the way, I want to make a quick announcement. Very quick announcement. Jarrod Tudor, don't worry. We're going to give you all the time you need, okay? I know. I see him out there stressing out about, oh, my gosh.
That is the wrong key. I meant to. That's still the wrong key.
Yeah, okay, Jarrod, we'll be back. All right, so wine professor Mr. Gray is going to talk to us about some wines. And by the way, something that, oh, yeah, Bob took himself so he can drink his drink. Before we get you going here, there we go. If you look below at the bottom there, we've got the HomeBuys on Whipple Avenue for great wine selection. Anytime you need some wine. Mark, wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, very much so.
Some great wine selection from the wine professor. So what do we have for tonight, Jarrod?
Well, I have a specific wine that I want to talk about, actually a grape, and then I'm drinking a wine made from that grape. And I think I have a picture there for you of a bottle of wine. Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember, when I first came on the show, we talked about how many grapes there were. So I wanted to introduce you to a grape that you're probably not familiar with, tell you a little bit about it, and recommend some food pairings. And the grape that I have chosen this evening is called Verdejo. So that's the name of the grape. And this bottle here is the one I'm drinking. It's called Nebula. It is 100% Verdejo. And actually, Mark likes it.
It's
so
really
Mark
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I think Mark likes everything.
I do.
Continue
I
on.
do, yeah.
Bob likes everything, too, by the way. There he is. He's back.
Yes.
Go ahead. Continue on. Keep going,
Sure.
Jarrod.
Sure. So real interesting thing about this grape is the next picture will show you where the grape comes from. It's a small region in Spain called Rueda. It's circled there. So that's predominantly where this grape comes from. Majority of the grapes grown in this region are Verdejo. So there's multiple different wineries making this wine. And when they make it, it usually produces a dry, unoaked white with flavors of lime and melon, fennel, a lot of nice, refreshing acidity. This particular one has just a little bit of pineapple and mango flavors. Occasionally, you'll find some of them oaked, but mostly unoaked. So a great patio pounder, something that you could substitute Sauv Blanc or Pinot Grigio for. And as you can see, I have it in a Sauv Blanc Pinot Grigio glass. Perfect for it. So that's what I would recommend drinking that out of. So if you want to drink it on its own, great for hot weather. With all
Show
those
us that glass again, Jarrod. There we go. We got a better. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So if you want to try something different, something that's not the typical Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc, like we had talked about before, Bob, there's 1,300 grapes that you can use to make wine. So why drink the same 10, 15 that you see everywhere? So here's a great alternative, Verdejo. I have a couple food pairings, and I think I have some nice pictures there that Mark's fixed up for me. The first one, let's see here. Yes. So that is a lime chicken with asparagus. Goes great with this meal. So chicken dishes, perfect. Anything with some lime accent to it. Asparagus is great. The next one is actually fish tacos. So I think we have a nice picture of fish tacos here. At some point.
Sorry,
yeah.
I was going to say this is a rated G show. Maybe we don't have the picture.
Oh gosh.
And
Gotta love you, Bob.
Mark,
yes.
There's Mark stealing one of my fish tacos. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
I just delete my browser history there. So.
That's a sexy ring you got there.
Yeah. But some cheese that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just. We got some
Julie Smith,
audience
yeah.
audience people that are. I want to jump in because we got a whole bunch. Julie Smith has a question: is it sweet or semi-sweet wine?
It is dry. So there is most of them are made dry. So they're going to be a little higher in alcohol than your typical sweet wine. This one is 13%, which would be typical for a Verdejo. So it's not going to have any residual sugar. It's going to be dry, refreshing, clean, crisp. You are going to get that lemon. Like I said, this one has pineapple, mango flavors. But yeah, not sweet or semi-sweet, but dry.
And let's see here. We have Kim McBride just says, with wine, you don't have that problem. I don't remember what it was. Sorry, Kim, but it's good to see you in here.
It's you don't
Bob's
have the problem with the clinking.
Oh, the clinking
yes.
ice, Bob. And Jarrod has a fan.
No.
Miss Susie Clark, Mariello. Miss Susie's going to be coming back on the show here again sometime because she loves Bob. And
Awesome.
She didn't like that I came on and interviewed when Bob couldn't make the last show. She'll be coming on again here soon. And Lori Evans likes to so you wouldn't drink it from a water glass like Mike would. Everyone's, I need some people on my side. And finally, we have Julie Smith. She's drinking out of her wine, out of her mug. So fine, good.
Well, I hope that I hope that you guys get to try this grape. It's a great alternative. I have a couple at my shop, so come in, see me. This isn't going to be a big section anywhere, so it's going to be found in the Spanish section, and you might find maybe 4 tops. Probably 1 or 2 is more reasonable for most wine shops around the area. But come in. I'll show you some Verdejo, and if you're interested in something else, I'll show you possibly one of Mark's other favorite patio pounders, a pick pool.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yes.
Yep. And thank you, Renee. She's here for me, which I'm glad somebody is here for me. It's very, very tough sledding for my part. And we knew it was a joke about the wine clinking. If anybody's noticed, Bob keeps muting himself when he takes a drink, which I predict that'll end sometime next week's show. Yes. So, Jarrod, thank you very much. As always, informative.
Thanks for having me.
And fun. And check out Jarrod at the HomeBuys on Whipple Avenue in Canton.
Thank you.
And if you get there on a Friday afternoon, you might see Mark there and get to meet the great Mark Seibert, which is always worth it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. We got to remove all the laughter because we have a serious matter to discuss. We have Dr. Jarrod Tudor. It's going to talk about what's happening in Washington. We cannot. It has to be.
It's really hard to get past the laughter on tonight's show. I mean, even pre-show was impossible when I thought this thing was falling apart. But nonetheless, and by the way, Big Dave, good to see you, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Now let's be serious. No laughter whatsoever.
No more.
Yes, no laughter. All right, Jarrod. So you're here to give us an update on what is happening in Washington. And by the way, for those of you that want Washington coverage, it's no better than on this show than with Jarrod Tudor because it's spot on, accurate, just great stuff. So, Jarrod, appreciate your time.
Fair and balanced.
Yeah, I mean it's great stuff. So, as soon as I find your notes, I'll be able to follow along. Which I don't know what I did with them, to be honest with you, Jarrod. Thank you, Jarrod. Talk to us. What's going on in Washington D.C.?
So, President Trump, former President Trump, was acquitted over the weekend in what turned out to be a pretty quick impeachment trial by a fairly surprising vote, 57-43. So we had talked a couple of times on the show about what Republican senators might vote to convict. Of course, we had that first preliminary vote. How many Republican senators would vote that it was constitutional to go ahead and proceed with a Senate trial? And then, of course, the question was how many senators after that first preliminary decision would actually vote to convict. Now, again, this is a very political procedure. everybody gets that. This is not a legal proceeding, except for the fact that the impact, if President Trump had been convicted, would have been a bar from federal office. So there was a little bit of a legalism with you there. But again, for those of us that were following the trial, it looked very irregular from what we learned in school or what we follow on television, because witnesses could talk to whomever they want. They could have these ridiculous floor debates. And, you know, I think everybody probably acted out of characters they really should have. There was a lot of that going on. But nonetheless, former President Trump escapes conviction, therefore, at least for now, allowing him to be a presidential candidate in 2024.
So that's the impact of the acquittal, is he can be a presidential in 2024.
Yeah.
How is this surprising to you that he was acquitted? It's not surprising to me at all, because I think that's what you said, right? It was surprising.
No, it's not surprising he was acquitted. What was surprising is they actually found 7 senators on the Republican side of the aisle to actually vote to convict. Now, some of these were on our list that we knew would convict. Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, Pat Toomey. I think those were ones we knew we'd have a lock. Lisa Murkowski. The 2 surprises were really Richard Burr from North Carolina. Again, this is the senator that had some trouble with insider trading investigations. It turned out he was cleared. But also Bill Cassidy, and Bill Cassidy was a real wild card. Here's a very interesting fellow, really smart guy. He's both a physician as well as a United States senator. And not only did he vote that the process was constitutional, he also voted to convict. Now, again, if you're the Democrats, you're probably scratching your head saying, well, where might I have found 10 more? And as we had said on the show several times, there just weren't 10. I mean, we came up with a list where if I had to find 10 more, these are the 10 that we would find. Both Scotts, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, 2 that we thought maybe might lean towards conviction. The Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, did not. All right. He voted not only that the process was not constitutional, but also not to convict. And then also, of course, Rob Portman, who told everybody, hey, I'm out. This is my last 2 years as a U.S. Senator from Ohio. And maybe that was a signal that, hey, I'm going to vote to convict, but I'm not going to worry about running for re-election again because it's just going to be too darn hard. But he didn't. He voted no on constitutionality as well as no on conviction. So pretty interesting that they found 7. I think you had 5 there. But the extra 2, certainly wild cards, especially Bill Cassidy. But there just were not 10 more there. There's just no way.
And what do you think the prognosis is for civil suits? Because that's the one thing that I keep hearing is that those are outside of any government reach, and that those could be coming from the private sector. Yeah.
So again, President Trump's legal woes are certainly not over. And again, just focusing on the January 6th event. He could face both criminal charges as well as a civil suit. Now, from what I understand, there was one filed today. I haven't read the complaint. It was an NAACP action along with Benny Thompson, who's also a legislator, interestingly enough, from Louisiana. I haven't read it, so I don't know what the merits are. But again, there are probably going to be plenty of civil suits. It's easy to file a civil suit. The preponderance of evidence standard is much lower than beyond a reasonable doubt to convict criminally. But I think you're going to see a criminal investigation, I'm virtually certain of it, as to whether President Trump had engaged in an act of insurrection. Now, if you look at the federal insurrection statute, I won't read all of it to you, but just to read it quickly, whoever incites, sets foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, they go through the penalty, shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Now, that's the plug-in, of course, to the 14th Amendment, which also says, as we'd mentioned on the show before, that if any federal office holder is found guilty of insurrection, it's a bar to both state and federal office. But again, this is going to take time. Criminal cases take time. Now, there's also a conspiracy statute, and I won't read the statute to you, but conspiracy is we all got together and we decided to do this. All right. So I talked to this person, they talked to this person, we all got together and we decided to storm the Capitol. That takes a lot of time. And I think where the Democrats probably fell short was the fact that they really rested their case on the First Amendment. President Trump's speech, right? That's not enough to be at least culpable in the Senate for the insurrection on January 6th. We have very broad free speech protection in this country. It's very, very broad. So just as an example, one of the things you're probably reading, our listeners are probably reading about, is this comparison to the Brandenburg case. All right, this is Brandenburg versus Ohio. This is 1969. And whether the clear and present danger of imminent lawless action would apply here. Okay, now Brandenburg, of course, he's a member of the Ku Klux Klan. He's in Cincinnati. He asks a reporter, hey, watch me give this speech. And he gives this speech and he talks about revengeance, not a word, right? But that's in his speech, that they need to take revengeance if the Supreme Court, Congress, and the president don't listen to their demands. And their demands were just what you would think would come from the Ku Klux Klan. But he's in Cincinnati. It's videotaped, all right? Now, in our world today, in 2021, you'd look at that videotape and say, well, what a wingnut. Of course I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do anything. The difference perhaps could be that President Trump had lots of people in front of him on that day and very close. That's still going to be a stretch when it comes to free speech. I think that's still a large stretch. And when you think about Supreme Court decisions since 1969, they haven't shrunk the spectrum of free speech. They've expanded it. So it's really, really going to be difficult. Now, again, if the Democrats had maybe spent more time on conspiracy, the president talked to this group, who talked to this group, to talk to this group, and they conspired, got together and decided to do this. Maybe they could have turned 10 senators. I think that would have been, again, almost impossible. Maybe a stronger case. The difference, however, in that particular situation is conspiracy takes time. You can't just get up in front of the Senate, throw a bunch of pictures up, and say, this is what we think would happen and this is the person to blame. Conspiracy takes time. You got to put a lot of people together, and that's probably where they fell short. And again, they weren't going to get 10 more senators, but maybe they could have picked up a couple more. Maybe made it a little bit closer.
So, Jarrod, I want to put you on the hot seat right now.
Please.
If you were a Democrat and you were, let's say you're in the Senate as a Democrat and had a leadership position, would you just drop it and be like, this is just too hard, or is this? And again, I'm not talking as Jarrod Tudor of individual. I'm asking to, from if you were on the Democratic side, because I'm going to ask you the same question as a Republican. So just so you know this. So as a Democrat, did they in terms of the feasibility of all this going on, did they take the right path?
Well, if you're asking me politically, they certainly did take the right path. There's no question about it. I think they were, in many respects, forced to. I think a lot of the Democrats thought, especially in the House, when it came to the impeachment vote, right, to move it over to the Senate trial, that they had to hold President Trump accountable, or their voting base would hold them accountable, right? So again, these are all political decisions. Right. Nobody wants to think of this as just strictly legal and ethical and moral. I'm sure that those were part of the calculus, but in the end, if I'm a Democrat, if I don't move forward on this, my voters are going to ask me why in the heck I didn't do that. Okay. Yep. And then, of course, you move over to the Senate. All 50 senators voted to convict. Again, if you were a Democrat and you were thinking about maybe not convicting or even going against the constitutionality of the process, your voters are going to ask you why you didn't do that.
Okay. So as a Democrat, you had to press forward. Now, as a Republican, if you're a Republican, then what are you doing? What are you doing? What's your strategy as a Republican?
Well, I think it really depends on two things. Number one, where do I want the party to go? If I want the party to go away from the former president, I'm going to vote to convict. Okay, that's part of the calculus. That's part one. Part two of the calculus is, where do I sit when I'm running for office again? Right. Okay. So if you think about the folks that voted the way they did. Now, Mitt Romney, I think, is a little bit of a wild card on most of this, in the sense that he's a very centrist. If you know much about his father, George Romney, very much a centrist. If you remember, in 1968, he comes back from Vietnam and says, hey, you know what, my party's got this whole thing wrong, right? And he went right against Nixon. But look at the race that Susan Collins was in just this last fall. Incredibly close. Probably couldn't go that way. Pat Toomey saying, I'm not going to be part of this anymore. He is retiring in 2022, not going for office. Ben Sasse is pretty interesting. He put himself out front of, my party needs to go this way. Now, if you believe that your party needs to stay close to Trump, probably because of the voter base. Okay. Now, again, we like to think that ethics and law and morality plays a role in this. But again, those are, I'd say, discounted factors when it comes to the actual political calculus. Where do I stand? And if I think the party needs to go this way and I need that base, then I'm going to vote maybe against constitutionality, and I'm going to vote against conviction. So if you think about where the Republicans are, they're going through kind of some very internal, let's call it indigestion. They have to decide what direction their party is going to go and how to keep that base. You know, whether you like it or not, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you certainly have to realize that Donald Trump got a lot of people off the couch, angry enough in both 2016 and 2020 to come and vote. That's power. That's real power. And the question becomes, again, we've talked about internal polling. I'm sure the Republicans have a lot of internal polling telling them you can't get rid of that base. All right. And Donald Trump, again, if in regard to the Republican Party, he deserves a lot of credit for sparking some kind of interest that obviously the Republicans hadn't been able to do before, and the Democrats have never been able to connect with.
So along those lines, you what do you think about the big test? Looks like coming up in 2022 is Josh Mandel. Yeah.
So you've seen a couple of Pat Toomey, and of course here Rob Portman saying, I'm not doing this anymore, right? I want to be out of the United States Senate. And Josh Mandel, who again had run for U.S. Senate beforehand, he's by no means a novice, a very skilled campaigner, good politician, raises money, good at all of those things, just what you would want, has gotten out front right away and said, you know, I'm the next Donald Trump. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he's saying, I'm close to Trump. Trump likes me. I get Trump. All right. And that will certainly be a test. He's decided to go this way. Now, it'll be interesting to see if there's a Republican that steps up in that primary. And by the way, we're already in campaign seasons, right? So it already started. So whether you think, oh, we're going to get some rest here and we'll get to take a timeout, yeah, that didn't going to happen. We're on. We'll see which direction this party goes and where Ohio goes. Now, the Democrats, of course, also have to get their act together as well. In Ohio, this is really becoming a red state. The Democrats have a really, really uphill battle. All right. But let's say you've got a very pro-Trump nominee. Let's say Mandel, for instance, makes it through the Republican primary, and any other Democrat, you're going to see where Ohio is going to go. Is it going to be a Jane Timken? Also very much aligned with Trump. So that'd be kind of an interesting runoff there. We'll see which direction Ohio goes. But again, the state is very much trending red. I think the Democrats would have a very, very difficult time either way in winning that Senate race. Now, in Pennsylvania, we're seeing the exact same thing. Pennsylvania, certainly much more bluer, if you will. And I think that the Democratic Party puts up in Pennsylvania will probably have a very, very good chance. But again, just a tale of two different states.
Great. Yeah. And is there any old school Republicans in the mix in this? You mentioned Timken and Mandel. Are there any possible old schoolers in Ohio right now?
None that have started out. None that have claimed that, that have put their flag in the ground saying this is the person that I want to be. And again, the political calculus in Ohio, I'm sure, as we all know, they've done their research. The Republicans, frankly, have always been better at the Democrats at doing that raw research. What's going to get people to the polls, right? Whether you like him or don't like him, Karl Rove is probably the best example of that. He's the person that clearly got President Bush across the finish line in 2004. There's no doubt about it. So they know their population. They know what it's going to take to win.
Gotcha. Well, all right. Well, excellent recap on what's happening in Washington. Do you have anything to add to that excellent report?
No, just it'll be interesting to see what plays out in the next several months. For those of you that watch the impeachment trial, Mitch McConnell gave probably one of the best addresses I've ever seen him give when he's trying to explain how Trump is responsible, yet on the constitutionality grounds, he didn't think the Senate had the authority. It was probably one of the best speeches he's given. It was really, really well done and shows maybe one of the things that proves is the balance in the end. Okay.
All right. Excellent. Well, very good report, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you back again soon to cover what's happening in Washington and anything else that you would like to cover, because you're better than any of the news media that's on right now. So, I mean, it's great. I mean, I love the unbiased reporting. I love how you can talk about both sides, what their strategy should be. It's informative on what's happening in Washington. So thank you very much.
Happy to do so. I'm going to go have some wine so I don't clink it around in a glass.
There you go. All righty, sir. Bob, you done sulking over there after Big Dave told you about the ice?
I'm embarrassed. I apologize to all of our listeners and all of our guests that hey, I screwed up, and I apologize. It's not funny, Mark. I'm really shook up about this whole thing, and
I was reading the comments. I was laughing at the comments. Yeah,
it was just good to see Dave, man. I'm telling you,
it was good to see.
I went underground.
It's nice. The first
where's
time
he been?
Oh, wait a minute. He's back on here. Hang on a second. We'll bring him on for the final. Oh, wait a minute. I removed him. Bob and I did it at the same time. Sorry.
The first time I get to meet Big Dave and he yells at me.
Exactly. Come on. And I like it. Would you have the camera at your feet, Dave, or what? Where is that coming? What's going on?
Well, it's just trying to find the best angle. I think. Let's see. Which one's? I think this is my best angle. I'm going to keep it. I'll keep it right there.
Oh man!
No,
can you shoot me from this side? Thanks.
Okay,
that's my best shot.
We're losing a viewer tonight, folks.
I got home from a long day. My battery was dead. I'm charging, so I'm holding my phone. It's charging. So there's your answer.
Oh my God!
So that's a good excuse, though.
It's the
all
truth.
Right.
It's not an excuse, but...
No, right. Sorry, I misspoke.
No, that's okay.
God.
And it wasn't criticism, Bob. I mean, you guys do.
It wasn't criticism. It was just an observation of what you should stop doing.
Yeah, I don't think that any of this makes it out, but apparently it not only it does that.
It sounds like one of those things that musicians use up to the microphone. That
the shaker.
Maybe we should
it's a
have
maraca, a cabasa.
The shaker.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a no cocktail rule on the show, and it's just wine.
Whoa,
we have.
Whoa.
I just got my.
Sorry, Jarrod.
Off the show for that?
Yeah. Hey, trust me. He believe me. If you upset Bob, you're out. I mean, that's all I can tell you.
You're canceled.
Just a basic wine
rule.
Since we've got the leading wine connoisseur in Northeast Ohio. Man, do I miss Northeast Ohio! I'm telling you.
Yeah. I'm training to be a politician. I'm silencing all dissenters.
Right.
Good policy. Jarrod Tudor, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, Big Dave.
All right. So next week on the show, Jared Gray. Who do we have?
Oh, we got a couple of guys from a business downtown Akron called High Street Hop House, and we're going to talk to them for a couple minutes next week.
Excellent, because Bob loves to talk about that kind of stuff, so that'll be very good. I think we're looking at doing the show is going to do a little bit of a field trip maybe on Saturday to go out there. Bob, if you have nothing to do, we'd love to see you out there. Maybe Big Dave can tag along. We can have a whole group go out there. Go out there and visit. Mark, do you have anything for next week? I'm not sure. Do you have an announcement or no?
I have nothing.
Nothing. All right. And of course, I mentioned earlier we have Mike Bonanno coming back on again next week to talk about Ohioans that have passed on. And great outro music, Bob. That sounds really wonderful. And thank you, Johnny Fedevich. Thank you, Jarrod Tudor.
Good job, Jarrod.
Thank you, Bob. Come on. You get the first words, the middle words, the last words, all the words. Go.
Well, I don't know how smart that is, but I get them anyway. So, hey, everybody, while you got you all on screen, Mark, good to see you again. Big Dave, thanks for the constructive criticism. I'll take that.
Jarrod,
And I'll get some ice silencers next week.
Wine, man. Yeah, it's just wine.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go with wine.
Never. You know.
And I'll drink it out of the proper cup next week, meaning my I didn't know that coffee cup. Again, this has been another edition of I Didn't Know That. We show up here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Make sure you join us. And if you like us, don't forget to subscribe and share and like it. And we'll be back here next week. But thanks to everybody, the professor, Jarrod Tudor, Mark, Big Dave, and of course, Mike Stoffer. See you here next week. Good night, everybody.